Hello everyone and welcome along to another episode of the Red Zone podcast with me, Fletch. This is going to be a podcast reflecting on what has been a pretty tough week for Liverpool. It's actually been a pretty tough couple of weeks for Liverpool. In fact, the doubleheader against Chelsea kicked off this whole thing, and then obviously the defeat to Napoli midweek, which I'll get on to, and then yesterday, as I'm recording this, it is yesterday's draw against Manchester City. Goalless draw, which was pretty surprising, but I'll get onto that later in the programme. So we're going to be talking about the Napoli game. I was meant to be doing a podcast last week at the end. I was going to be doing a review on the Napoli game and a preview of the City game, but unfortunately I again lost the audio, so that didn't end up coming to fruition. But enough of that, I digress. The Napoli game, probably the worst performance I have seen from this current Liverpool side in a very, very, very long time. I honestly cannot remember the last time we played that poorly. Probably the 4-1 loss, heavy defeat to Tottenham last season, maybe. It was shocking. It was honestly shocking. I mean, the 4-1 defeat to Tottenham, there probably was a defeat in between. Not really a defeat, more of a shocking performance in between. Not even the Champions League final was that bad. It was just based on individual mistakes, that one. But the 4-1 defeat to Tottenham was bad in all areas. The 1-0 defeat to Liverpool in Napoli was poor in midfield and was poor in defence. Not defence, sorry. Defence was actually probably our best asset in this game. Surprisingly, we still conceded. But up front was non-existent as well. Napoli were just better all over the pitch. Midfield, they completely controlled the show. Defensively, they stopped our attack. Incredible. Koulibaly, Jesus Christ, Koulibaly was so good. He was legit. He's legit at centre back. That's everywhere. He was honestly everywhere on that pitch. He was incredible, and it got me thinking that I would like to see him play alongside Van Dijk, because if we had him playing alongside Van Dijk, like I love Gomez. Don't get me wrong. Lovren is okay, but oh my God, Koulibaly and Van Dijk, that partnership and at the heart of the Liverpool defence will be immense. But this performance just typified that the front three did not work. The midfield was non-existent. It was poor. It didn't help that Keita came off, yes, but it's not really an excuse considering who we have and what we have at our disposal. The defence was pretty good though. I would say that the back four and goalkeeper pretty much kept us in the game and kept the scoreline at a respectable one. There was nothing they could have done about the goal. Like that ball across the face of goal was perfect. It was just perfect for Insigne to slide home. There was nothing Alisson could have done. There was nothing the defence could have done to stop it. Maybe they could have stopped it earlier, of course, but there was nothing they could have done once that ball came into. I don't remember who it was who played it across goal, but once it came into him and he played it across goal for Insigne, there was nothing no one could have done about it. Napoli were worthy winners. They could have actually took the lead much earlier through that attempt they had, which came off a crossbar. But for us, it wasn't good at all. There was not even a shot on target. We didn't even look like scoring. It was just poor. And the only upside I can take from this game is that at least we beat PSG, because if we were looking, if it weren't for Bobby Firmino's last minute goal against PSG, it would have been a draw. We would have been on the back foot straight away in this group. But thanks to Firmino's late goal in the previous game, at least it's not a complete loss. This game isn't a complete loss because, it is a loss, but at the same time, with a double header coming up against Red Star Belgrade, that should be 6 points. The next two games against Red Star should be 6 points for us. And with obviously the two rivals in this group going head to head against each other in Napoli and PSG, hopefully, I don't know, maybe a couple of draws. alarm went off there, my bad. Maybe a couple of draws in them games could really help us along the way. We get 6 points at Red Star. We go on to 9 points in total in that group before we go on to face PSG in the return fixture. You know, then it doesn't seem as bad. Like, yeah, it was a shocking result, it was a shocking performance, but it's not the end of the world. I won't do player ratings for this game because there's legit no one I can say, maybe apart from Gomez and Van Dijk, that played particularly well. Trent was okay defensively, and Robertson was okay defensively, but they were poor going forward, that kind of thing. There was Alisson, well, of course, kept us in it with a couple of good saves as well, but apart from that, there was really no one that can really hold their head high outside of the goalkeeper and centre backs. So that was poor, but we moved on to Liverpool versus Man City game. We moved on to Sunday's game. Surprisingly goalless. You would have been a brave or stupid person to have bet on a goalless draw for this game, because these are two sides that normally score plenty of goals, and even if Liverpool's forward three hasn't quite linked up as well as we'd like to have seen this season, you might have probably put a bet on at least both teams to score. We definitely have the potential. Well, we have the firepower to do that, obviously, and Man City obviously do as well. And these games normally throw up multiple goal encounters, but surprisingly, this game was a goalless draw. Good result for both sides, I'd say, going into the international break, which I will say, by the way, and I will get onto this a little bit later. I think the international break is actually welcome for us. I know that many teams and many people will say the international break's pointless and we hate it, but I think I would have taken an international break right now. And I hate to say it, but with the way that we've been performing over the past couple of weeks, with the way that our forward three haven't quite linked up this season, maybe it's the best thing that can happen. It's not the end of the world, this result, of course. It means that we are third via goal difference, but obviously level on points with both Chelsea and City. And it could have been much worse. The late penalty that City missed, we're all laughing at it because it was a dreadful penalty, but we kind of got away with it a little bit. As for player ratings, I thought Alisson didn't have really much to do. He made one or two simple saves, I'd say. And he also guessed the right way for the penalty for Mahrez. So I think he probably would have saved it if it had been on target anyway. And there was actually footage that came out after the game that the Liverpool goalkeeping coach actually signalled to him where Mahrez was going to put the penalty. So I will give a bit of credit there where credit's due, because the goalkeeping coach who signalled it did actually guess the right way. Alisson followed the instruction of his goalkeeping coach, and I think if it was on target, providing the timing of it, I would say that probably Alisson would have saved it if it was on target. But it doesn't matter anyway. Mahrez blasts it over. We can laugh it in now, and it's all well and good. Probably give Alisson a 8. No, 7.5. We'll give him 7.5 because he didn't really have much to do. Gomez played right back for this game. He came in for Trent. I wasn't 100% sure. My theory is that they were going to play three at the back at times when going forward, and it meant Robertson could lead the line more, whilst we were going to probably use Gomez to stop the likes of, if we were going to play if they were going to play Sane there, it would stop Sane, but they played Sterling there instead, so we stopped Sterling. He did okay on the right back. I wasn't too keen when seeing the team news that he was playing out there, and we were splitting up the Van Dijk and Gomez partnership that has done so well for us this season. But he played okay. He made one or two mistakes. The one that sticks out most is the poor clearance that he made. I think Lovren had dealt with a decent looking ball into the penalty area. He headed it clear to Gomez, and Gomez miscued his clearance or something, put it right back into the penalty area. And Lovren and this goes on to my review of Lovren's performance as well. Lovren almost gave away a penalty in the first half because the miscue clearance from Gomez fell straight to Aguero. Lovren a little bit clumsy, but he does manage to get away with it, so I'm a little bit happy with that because Aguero wasn't on the pitch at the time of Morris' penalty, so I was sort of a little bit worried that if Aguero was on the pitch, he would have scored. But yeah, we got away with that one a little bit as well. We got very fortunate in this game when you look on the reflection of it. So yeah, decent performance from Gomez. One or two mistakes. Just doesn't offer us the sort of quality ball into the box that maybe Trent does. I feel like maybe with one or two decent deliveries, we may have actually caused City more problems in the penalty area, but it was a decent performance from him anyway. Give him a 7. Van Dijk, I thought Van Dijk had a pretty solid game right up until he gave away the penalty. It was just like a moment of madness from him. I can't really say too much because the penalty was missed. I feel like if Lovren had gave it away, we'll be talking about it more. And there's nothing like against Lovren. It's like I just feel people are quick to jump on Lovren's back, and I'm not Lovren's biggest fan, I will admit. I'd much rather see him on the bench than as starting alongside Van Dijk because of how well Gomez has done this season. But having said that, I do think sometimes the a bit like Henderson, a bit of the criticism he gets can be a little bit unfair at times. But going back to Van Dijk, like, yeah, he had a decent performance. Kept Aguero extremely quiet. I don't know what's happened with Aguero, but it's like he gets a few goals every now and again, but he's just relatively quiet in the few games I've seen him this season. But yeah, Van Dijk, Lovren, good partnership. They did pretty well. I thought Lovren especially was solid as well. Besides one or two mistakes, but I think that was to be expected with this being like his first Premier League game back. And his first game since the Carabao Cup game against Chelsea, I had to think then. Yeah, so I thought both did pretty well. Probably give... I think I'd give Lovren probably an 8 and Van Dijk a 7. It would have been an 8 for Van Dijk if he had not given away the penalty. Robertson, I think City halted his attacking threat pretty well, but defensively he's still pretty good. He kept Morris quiet for the majority of the game, although Morris did get like a couple of opportunities, particularly in the second half, but I think for the first half he kept Morris quiet. I think City knew that. I think City identified that their best way of getting through the Liverpool defence was to go down the side of Gomez and Lovren. Everyone knows Lovren's got a mistake in him. Everyone knows that Gomez is not well. I know he played there a lot for Charlton when he was there, but he's not a natural right back. So I think City recognised that. Rather than go down the path of Van Dijk and Robertson, probably go down the other side of Lovren and Gomez, but both sides of the defence held up pretty well. Give Robos a 6.5. Again, I just miss his attacking approach, and hopefully after the international break we can see a lot more of that going forward. I thought in midfield, Gini Wijnaldum was great today. I thought yesterday. I thought Wijnaldum was really, really great in midfield. He showed some nice touches in midfield. He kept control of the ball. He did some good passing, nice Cruyff turns. I think he's been taking tips off Lallana, but he's been using the Cruyff turn more effectively to keep possession and stuff. And I will say once again that when Milner came off, I will go into Milner. When Milner came off with his injury for Keita, again I will say that I honestly do believe that Wijnaldum is better with Keita in the midfield because when you think about it, like the roles of these three midfielders seems to change depending on what combination you have. Not mainly Milner, but more Henderson and Wijnaldum. Like when it's the three of them, where it's Genie, Milner, and Henderson. Genie's more of the roaming one. He'll roam more. But when Catos comes on, it seems to be like Henderson moves to. In this game particularly, Henderson moved to being Milner's role, where he's just everywhere and he's playing passes left, right, and centre, and he's just trying to sort out the danger. Genie's the anchorman, and Milne and Cater's the more attacking one. Although we didn't actually see much of Cater's attacking approach, but I'll get into that more in a second. But yeah, I thought it was a decent performance from Genie. I'll give him an 8. I thought he did really, really well to keep control of the ball. Did some great defensive work. Nothing too fancy. Played the simple stuff really well, which was good to see. Henderson, did have a feeling he would start. I didn't think they would actually risk Keita starting in this game. Of course, obviously, Keita came on for the injured Milner. But again, it was a good performance in a big game from our captain. The anti-Henderson agenda, I mean, I do get it. Like, he doesn't probably play his best games against the lesser clubs, shall we say. Sometimes in smaller games he can go a little bit missing, but I will say that in the majority of big games he does step up. He stepped up. I thought he did pretty well against Chelsea last week. He showed a good opening 10 minutes when he came onto the pitch for the injured Keita midweek, but I think after that 10 minutes was up, it was sort of like no one played well, so you can't really single him out. Okay, maybe you can because he's captain and stuff, but I don't think you can genuinely single him out on that day because everyone was poor. But I thought in this game he did pretty well. He was energetic, he was lively, decent captain's performance. His passing was good. It's a strange one with Henderson because, like I said, I just don't think him and Milner blend well. So it's kind of like we need more of a creative influence in midfield. I do think Keita will be that influence, but I just think it will take time for him to adapt to the game, and it's really about finding Keita's proper role in that midfield, because, like I say, I'll get onto that more of a role thing in a minute. Milner, Henderson. I give him a 7.5. Henderson. Milner, can't really give him a rating. He was subbed off too early. Potential hamstring injury, but doesn't look too serious. It looks like something that could easily be recovered from over the international break, which is perfect timing for him. Keita was his replacement. Up front, Salah had a couple of decent opportunities, but didn't. Again, the front three didn't really threaten Edison. I thought Laporte and Stones were actually pretty decent and solid in defence, which didn't help. Which didn't help our forward three at all. But a couple of decent opportunities for Salah. You do sense his sharpness is slowly getting back. He does show these little glimpses where his sharpness is just getting back, but he doesn't show it often enough, I don't think, yet. But I'm hoping after the international break, all the forwards three will get back to showing signs of their best form. I give Salah a 7. Maybe being a bit kind, but yeah. Firmino, I thought his work rate and link-up play was pretty good. Nothing out of the usual there. Just seems to be lacking a bit of a killer instinct right now. He was subbed off in the second half for Sturridge, who didn't have much of an impact in the game, didn't really have much of a say in the game at all. But I thought work rate and link-up play was pretty good from Firmino. Give him a 7. Mane, not his best performance. He worked hard. He did a lot of work off the ball. He almost set up Salah for the first in the first half. And I do think that his presence in an attacking sense halted Kyle Walker's attacking threat down the right wing. So that was pretty good. It neutralised the threat of Walker, which was pretty good to see. But again, like I said, I like to see him do more sometimes. Sometimes I think he does more when he needs to do a bit less, and I think that sometimes he does less when he needs to do a bit more. And I think I'm talking more in a sense that when he has the ball at his feet and it's like you're urging him to like run at the defender because if he does, he might have him on toast. And if he passes it, and then he might pass it. But if he passes it, and you think he could have done so much more, or maybe he'll run at a defender, and you think he should have played it. I just think maybe his final decision making needs a little bit more of a. I guess like Firmino, just more of a killer instinct, more of a decisive sort of factor into his game in that final part of it. But apart from that, okay performance. Give him a 6. Like I said, the subs didn't really. I thought Keita was given a role today in the sense that he wasn't as attacking as much. I think in the past we've seen him break the lines of an opposition defence to try and get into the gaps to sort of get into a good attacking positions. I don't think we saw that today. I think with City playing both Silvers in the midfield, I thought his role was to just sit deep, play the Milner role, snuff out any danger, and get around the main City playmakers. And I think, like I said before, finding his role in that midfield, he has to be like the Oxlade-Chamberlain role. And I do think that when Chamberlain, because obviously Chamberlain, we don't think he's going to be back until either the latter stages of this season, or he's probably going to be out for this entire season and probably will start again the next season. But he has to do what Oxlade-Chamberlain was doing last season, because Oxlade improved last season heavily. In his first season with Liverpool, he improved so much, and that's what Keita has to do this season. He has to improve, he has to adapt to the league, and he has to do what Oxlade was doing last season, which was attacking, going forward, playmaker, but also doing defensive duties as well, because that's what Chamberlain did last season. He was great at it. Unfortunately for him, he's out. But a point overall is pretty good for both sides. I think on reflection, it may suit City more because it was at Anfield. This is the kind of game where both teams are good at home. This fixture always provides good matches, but it seems to be that the home side in this game, in recent years in particular, have the majority of the time come out on top. We proved last year that we can go to City and we can win, but on the other hand, like, that was a game where we were 3-0 up and City had to come out and attack, and that worked out in our favour for us. So I wouldn't read too much into that one. But it may be something to go on when we face them in the new year. Thing that's concerning for me is the front three not linking up as well as we've seen. I think this is now 4 games without a win, and the past 2 games we just haven't looked like scoring at all. Like the Napoli game, we didn't even create a single chance on goal. This game, our pressing game was pretty good, but again we lacked a killer instinct. We just didn't really trouble Edison that much. We had 1 or 2 opportunities, like I said, through Salah. Just, it's a little bit concerning me right now. I think we may, depending on the upside for me is when we come back from the international break, we have got a decent run of games that easily can get our front three's confidence up, because they are going to be games that are there for the taking. I look at it and I think, when we come out from the international break, leading up to the next international break, we have Huddersfield, back-to-back games against Red Star Belgrade, Cardiff, Arsenal, and Fulham. Now, Arsenal aside, them games are against... Arsenal in the Champions League games aside, should I say. The 3 Premier League games are against 3 of the teams that are in the bottom 4, bottom 5 I believe. I don't. Fulham are either 16th or 17th. I don't actually remember. So those should be games that we should have no problem in winning, and also getting some goals under our belts. They should be no problem. Should be on paper. That's what I'm saying. Like, we should go into them games and we should get Salah a few goals, we should get Mane a few goals, and we should get Firmino a few goals. These are perfect games to have right now. We've just come out of our toughest run of the season so far. Maybe even our toughest run of the season entirely. I know we got a tough run in December. We've got to face the likes of Bournemouth, Manchester United, Wolves, Arsenal, and Manchester City on New Year's Day. That comes in December, from the middle of December to the new year. That's going to be tough. And of course, as we get later into the season, if our title challenge is still being maintained, every game's going to be tough from there on out, because it's whether we can hold our nerve. But arguably on paper, that's been our toughest run of the season to date. And now, looking at it after the international break, it's a fairly easier run. The Arsenal game's going to be interesting. Arsenal currently on a great run, 9 wins on the bounce in all competitions. That's going to be a very interesting game. They played some amazing stuff yesterday. Watched that game. So that was going to be a very interesting game for everyone. But like I said, the Huddersfield game, the Arsenal game, the Cardiff game, and the Fulham game should be games that we win, should be games that we score plenty of goals in. Chances also to keep more clean sheets. That was Alisson's 5th clean sheet of the campaign yesterday. So there's plenty of stuff to look forward to. The past couple of weeks have been tough, but like I say, we got out of our toughest run of the season so far. And of course, the Red Star Belgrade games mean that maybe we can get our Champions League run back on track as well. But third place with the same amount of points as our 2 closest rivals, with third only by a goal difference. If you offered me that at the beginning of the season, I'd have taken that, because we've already faced our 2 main rivals. We've already faced Chelsea and City, and them two have got to still play each other, and Chelsea plays Man United when we come back from the international break. And we still only have to play Arsenal and United out of the top 6. Out of the top 6, we still only got to play Arsenal and United. So there's plenty of things to look forward to. We haven't, like I say, again, I'm going to sound like a bit of a parrot for repeating this, but we haven't come out of second gear yet. So when we do, if we do, we're gonna start battering teams, because you only sense it's only a matter of time before everything starts clicking into place and we give a team a real good battering. And that's what you can only sense in this team. It's brewing. Like the sense of frustration is brewing, and it's only a matter of time before we start battering teams again like we did last season. And I think when we come back, the Huddersfield game will be the perfect start to that. But yeah, if you'd have given me this situation when we kicked off the season after this many games, I would have bit your hand off completely. I'm going to bring an end to this podcast. I'm going to do one again next week. Enjoy the international... Well, try and enjoy the international break anyway. Like I said, I think this international break has come at the right time for Liverpool. I think it's a good time for everyone to... Some of the players obviously won't be travelling international-wise, so it's a good chance for them to rest. Some of the players will be, but it's a good time to kind of sort of refresh, get a little bit more rest than probably they have been in recent weeks, because they've been playing 2 games pretty much every week. So pretty good for that. And hopefully we can come back, get some wins, some goals under our belts, and kick on our season from there in a much better fashion, I would say. Because although it's good winning these games when you're not playing well, and they're the kind of games that make you champions, like, still like to see a bit more from us, you know? It's like brewing, you can sense it. But like I say, enjoy the international break. I'll be back with the Red Zone podcast next week, where I'll be looking ahead to the Huddersfield game. Unless major news happens, I don't think that will be a long podcast either. I'll probably just be doing team news and predictions, that kind of thing. Like I say, enjoy the international break. More stuff as well coming up on the channel. I'll be talking mainly just talking football every day, or trying to every day. Of course, nothing really happens over the international break, really. So, if it's not England or any other top nation related, it just slides under the radar a little bit. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. I don't know where that came from, but yeah, thank you for listening for the third time. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button on the way out. If you have any comments on the Napoli game, the City game, or the slight preview I did of the games coming up in Champions League and Premier League till the next international break, I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section. Otherwise, subscribe if you're new, subscribe if you want to see more content like this on the channel. I've been Fletch, this has been another episode of the Red Zone podcast, and I will see you all in another video, in another podcast, and so on and so forth. Thanks, guys.